The number 2 seed has been locked up by the Boston Celtics, and we now look ahead to the playoffs, but not before looking back on the regular season that was. All of that next on First to the Floor.
Who's going to be first to the floor here? And it was Marcus Smart, as he usually is.
Brown drives.
That's not the first time we've seen a superstar in green and white sacrifice his body.
Garnett knocked away.
Welcome into another episode of First to the Floor. Ben Vallis here. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. Before we get to who we're not joined by, we are joined by Mr. Wayne Spoony. Spoons, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. You know, locked up the 2 seed. We get to see a couple games of J.D. Davison running the offense. I'm looking forward to it.
And of course, hot take Jake Eisenberg. Jake, how you doing, sir? Welcome back.
Mate, doing good. Played like 2 hours of full court pickup yesterday, and I am sore. I'm questionable with soreness going into tomorrow.
Horford, lower back soreness.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Are you in like ice bath territory yet after 2 hours of pickup, or are you not quite that old? Because I had myself an ice bath the other day, and I felt the benefits immediately.
I was like 7 minutes, followed by 3 beers and fried chicken. That's where I'm at. So
that's where you're at. That's the recovery process. Great. We'll have to let the Celtics medical staff know that that's a valid technique. So NBC Sports, Max Letterman was supposed to be joining us on this pod. He may still join us on this pod. The invitation is very much in his Twitter DMs, hopefully awaiting his clicking onness anytime soon. In the meantime, we are just going to soldier on here, call an audible, if you will, to borrow a non-NBA sporting term. Guys, let's just take a moment. The regular season is practically wrapped up at this point. We've got potentially the two most exciting games of the season with J.D. Davison at the helm with the Jays for the final 2 games there against the Raptors and the Hawks. In the meantime, like with the regular season all but wrapped up, Spoony, has this season met your expectations going forward or going in?
I always kind of expected us to land around mid-50s wins. It's frustrating when you're in the moment watching us collapse, lose to the Rockets or something like that. But overall, this is about the regular season that I expected, right? Like, you don't want these guys going 100% every game, even though when you're watching the game, it is so incredibly frustrating watching them, miss out on rebounds, not to get to every loose ball. There was a lot more drama to start the year than anybody expected last summer. With the Udoka stuff, and then everybody's hyped for Gallinari. We're playing the Danilo Gallinari, highlights and stuff like that. And then, he's obviously not played a minute, and people have been in and out of the lineup way more than last year, definitely more than the second half of the season last year. So overall, I think you take all that into account, and the East is really good. I mean, there's even the Magic aren't even going to make the play-in. They're a solid team, man. So I think given all that, Missoula taking over like a day before training camp started, I'm pretty happy with the regular season overall.
Yeah, look, when I predicted 62 wins, that was before
Udoka was our coach then.
Yeah, before our coach turned into the horniest man alive, before Gallinari tore his ACL, and before I knew Rob was only going to play 35 games. So, if those 3 things, if I would have known that, maybe I would have said 55 or 56 wins. It's a pretty good year.
It's kind of a loosey-goosey question as far as as far as your expectations going into the season, from which week or day prior to the season are we snapshotting those expectations? Because in the 2 weeks prior, the shit really hit the fan on so many fronts with the Gallo injury and, like you said, Spoonie, the Udoka horniness situation as well. So after all of that, my expectations did plummet a little bit, and rightfully so. We didn't know much about Joe Mazzulla other than he was the paddle guy, and was a favorite of Brad Stevens and had been around the organization for quite a while.
Ben was freaking out. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, as I tend to do. So at that point, expectations were lower, and I wasn't necessarily thinking, okay, like straight back to the finals, like I was a few weeks prior to that when Udoka was still the coach. And yet now, having been through the up and downs of the season and the 21-5 start or wherever it was, where I was like, okay, championship time, let's go. Then the massive plummet, sort of the meat in the middle of this regular season sandwich was spoiled, if you will. It was not a tasty portion of the sandwich. And now we're back out to the crispy, fluffy, doughy bread, and things are looking good again. I apologize immediately after using that analogy. So expectations really have been wavering, and I suppose throughout all of that, they've just come back to settle at where they were going into the regular season, where we were basically about as good as I thought and hoped that we would be. What about player-wise, Jake? Have any players either drastically exceeded or fallen short of your expectations going into the season?
Maybe I'll start positive, I guess. Derek White, come on. Like, we knew he was
Of course
good.
you
on.
start with Derek.
The
Come
mistress.
If you were to tell us before the season that Derek White was going to shoot 39 or 38% from three, we'd be like, oh, maybe they will win 62 games. Like, he's been unreal. And last night again, he might not crack 80 games because he might miss these last two, but I think he's at like 78 or 79 games. Like, he's Iron Man, bleeding nose, like point guard coming off the bench. Like, he carried us throughout that Smart stretch when Smart was out, dropping like 20, had like 6 threes or 7 threes against the Hornets in the game me and Ben watched together. Like, I think D White, I'm pretty sure he's going to make at least an all-defense team. He should make first-team all-defense. You add, like, the already incredible defense plus how much better he's been on the offensive side of the ball compared to, like, the trade deadline and on last year. I think, for me, shocking, the mistress.
Yeah, if I'm going to go who's exceeded expectations, so I just wrote about him for Celtics blog.
Let's go.
Go check it out. From Lob City to Job City. I think it's Blake Griffin. He's only played in like 38, 39 games, but every time we've called on Blake, right, we knew going into this season, Rob was going to miss a significant amount of the start of the season, and he's missed way more than that. Right? Like, he came back, he's been out again, in and out all season long. And Al's 36 years old. As me and Ben are 36-year-old men, we know how it is when your body is trying to play basketball or do anything athletic at 36 years old. It's very difficult, right?
Oh, yes.
So, we were all concerned. I think Luke's done okay, but Blake has just been great. Like, the assist percentage for the team goes way up when Blake's on the court. The defensive rating goes way down, which is a good thing. The turnover percentage goes down when Blake's on the court. He's leading the team in charges. He's leading the team in charges per 36 minutes, and it's not close. So I think for me, it's like we were really worried about what that third center spot's going to look like. And, Luke's done his job. I think Luke slightly exceeded expectations, but Blake, I just thought he was going to be a vibes guy, 14th man, maybe going to see the floor in blowouts, but he has legitimately played a real role, shooting 39% from three in starts. Like that's crazy, man. Like that is really, really good. He's got his best defensive rebounding percentage since his second year in the league. And
That's wild.
Yeah. And his best offensive rebounding percentage since he was in LA. I mean, what more could we ask from that dude?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been talked about a lot by the players on the team as well, but just the adjustment to this role, and that's not just singling out this year on the Celtics for Blake Griffin, but later in his career, certainly last year alongside Patty Mills on the Nets as well, completely adjusting his approach to the game and his approach to his role on a team, and just how necessary that sort of veteran leadership is, excuse me, coming from a guy who once was top 5 in MVP voting, that clearly boosts the morale of everyone else on the team who's maybe in the earlier portion of their NBA career, showing that, a guy like that can make that adjustment to their approach. Those two, so Blake Griffin, Derek White, definitely the two marquee players on the all exceeded expectations Celtics team. I'll introduce a couple of other ideas. Malcolm Brogdon, I think, is probably the next one, and it's a little bit more subtle because obviously we had high expectations after acquiring Malcolm Brogdon, but I think, and this is a testament to the Celtics medical team as well, that the health that he's been able to maintain. Touch wood, hands in the air. This is a safe space. No jinxes here. Yeah, touch wood. That's been fantastic, just the way that that's been managed throughout the organization. And we're really now starting to see this ramp up from Brogdon, and his contributions off the bench in that 6-man role have been absolutely incredible. And we were talking, off air before going live, guys, like, we could do a pod on like the all what we didn't have last year team, and Malcolm Brogdon might be like the starting, the most important entity within that team, just because of how much he gives us as far as dribble penetration, some of that veteran leadership as well. He's an excellent defender for the most part. And certainly he has ramped up his team defense as well as being a Celtic. His tenure on the Celtics has increased as well. So Malcolm Brogdon, I think, has just exceeded my expectations. The other one, maybe this is a little bit more debatable, but Jaylen Brown. I just think that he is arguably like up there with Tatum as far as at least his status in the league. Maybe not outside of Celtics fans, but I think we're all in a space now where we'd be very comfortable him making All-NBA and us offering him the Supermax. I think there are less detractors of that concept than there are promoters at this point. And like a year ago, if I'd said we're going to throw, 230 mil or whatever it is at Jaylen Brown, it'd at least be 50-50 in terms of people agreeing and disagreeing with that. And I think he has just elevated his game to such a degree, and we saw it, the underwater workouts prior to the season. He's really got himself in like tip-top shape.
He's ripped.
Producing on the court, he's absolutely jacked. And I just think, he's exceeded my expectations in that sense as well. Would you agree or disagree with that, Spoons?
Yeah, I don't know what to expect with Jaylen ever, because I always feel like, oh, how can he get better than this? And then he does, right? And he does it in ways I don't anticipate, because I feel like the playmaking to turnover ratio is not low-hanging fruit, because that's probably the hardest thing for anyone to get better at in the NBA. So you think, well, if he just figures that out, man, he's going to jump to a different level. But instead, he just keeps getting more efficient, more deadly, better at scoring. His mid-range game is absolutely unstoppable. And I think the biggest thing for Jaylen this year, this is the best defensive season of his career. When's the last time he's gotten back cut? Like, that used to be every game.
He's doing the back cutting now.
Yeah, now he's like, oh, I used to get back cut all the time. I'll just do that. Like, I mean, can you guys remember a time recently where there's been one of those really bad back cuts and you're just embarrassed?
They're not as bad. They're definitely not as bad. There was maybe one yesterday that I could just see the camera, the mic picked up like shit, and it was Jaylen Beats.
Yeah.
But it may be the mask. Game. Yeah. But I think for me, I'm not sure he's exceeding expectations, just because like I kind of expected him to get better again. Maybe I wasn't sure in what way, but I think at this point, I would be more surprised if Jaylen doesn't end next season better again, just because like that's kind of what he does. And for players that are 26 years old that are like committed to the nth degree to getting better, that's just kind of what happens. But that being said, like this last jump, post All-Star break jump, that's probably exceeded my expectations. Like before that, we were already like, okay, he's gotten better again. Great, love Jaylen. Best number 2 in the NBA. But I was looking today, last 15 games, he's shooting 75% in the restricted area. Like he's unstoppable right now. Like down low. Like no one can stop him. And like as the season goes on, he seems to be getting stronger and stronger. Like those underwater workouts you said, Ben, paying off.
Yeah, I got to get myself in the pool. Somehow I don't see it happening. What about falling short of expectations? And I might just get ahead of this, guys, if you don't mind. And apologies in advance to the Grant stands out there. We love Grant Williams. I've just buried the lead here, but he has fallen short of expectations, I would say. And we're getting head nods around the room here as I say that. And it's really just, it speaks to how high our expectations were of him, just because of how well he was doing in the playoffs last year, how good he looked even early on this season, where like his pump fakes and his timing on that seemed to produce a lot more than they are now. And now he's way too in his head, and he's way too discombobulated about when to use his newly learned moves and how to most efficiently create out of them. And unfortunately, he's just getting himself stuck and maybe overthinking when to do what on the court. What do you think, Jake?
Oh, man. Grant's in a bad place right now. Grant's in a bad place right now. I think it's definitely salvageable. He's still a young player. I think he needs like an off season to reset. I don't know how you kind of fix this going into the playoffs. And this is going to be a chicken or an egg thing. Did he maybe lose confidence because he wasn't getting minutes, or like, was that always he was playing bad, so you have to bench him when that was supposed to motivate you to play better? But the 2 missed free throws, air ball to 3. The defense has been pretty substantially worse than last season. Overall, bummer. Just kind of a bummer from Grant. I think it's salvageable. I think he can definitely come back. But like, if he's not hitting threes and not defending at a high level, then like he can't play really.
These are the ebbs and flows of a young role player. I feel like, you know what I mean? He proved that he can hit threes at a high clip. So now teams are closing out on him. And now he's got to figure out, once teams are closing out on me, what the hell do I do next? And we are just watching him stumble through that. It's been hard to watch at times, absolutely. But then also, like, he had a nice little Euro step the other night. I mean, it was pretty that was filthy.
There's been moments for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot there with Grant. I'm not giving up on Grant yet. I hope we bring him back. I think there's a lot he can improve on. And I think he knows that better than just about anybody. But yeah, you guys are right. Like, he is absolutely in his head right now. To the point where he's not firing open shots when he should. And that's the worst thing you can do. If we play the Bucks and the Bucks try to game 7 defend him, where he's just sitting by himself in the corner, I think we're going to be fine. I think Grant will do it again, and he will absolutely snipe all game. But it's these hard closeouts that he just doesn't quite know what to do with when he's playing 5-on-4, that he's got a lot to learn there. And that's okay. He's young. He'll figure it out, but he's definitely, this has not been the season we all hope for Grant, and probably for himself.
For the Celtics, though, it could be good timing. Like, let's just say he had his season that he had last year, this year, and then he's a restricted free agent. He probably gets closer to that 18 million, 20 million range. But now it's going to be, I'd be surprised if he gets anywhere close to 15. And so you get him back on that lower number, and then he returns to that form. All of a sudden, we've got another Brad Stevens masterclass on our hands. So,
I just think the playoffs are so drastically altering of what that extension conversation looks like. Like, we can't even really, even though we've been having it all year, like we have to sort of pause it now and wait and see what happens in the playoffs as far as Grant's concerned, before we continue that conversation. Jake, do you think that Grant's lost his rotation spot to Blake or Hauser or, dare I say, Muscala? Like, as far as like Joe's trust in Grant?
Well, that's why, like, I don't know if we do have to wait for the playoffs to see what this contract situation turns into, because I think like Blake is taking his spot, but right now, because right now there isn't 20, 25 minutes available for Grant. Like, they're kind of just a different team than last year's team going into the playoffs. It was like they kind of had to play Grant 35 minutes because the rotation, Rob was there half the time. There was no Brogdon. Like, the team was just different. Hauser wasn't there. Blake wasn't there. And Blake, man, he was the best defender against Embiid. That's not saying a lot the other night, but he got one of maybe the only stop on Embiid, swiped down on him. But he's kind of shown that he can do that. And what's weird about Grant right now, why are we loving Blake? Yes, we like it when he can make a shot. But like, he's like the epitome of Tommy points, first to the floor at the moment, like offensive rebounds. It's like, Grant, if you're missing shots, that's fine. Just balls to the walls, effort, energy, like complete grit. And that will kind of like open up the rest of your game for you. And we're just not seeing any of that. All we're seeing is like him in his head and him complaining to the ref. And right now, Blake is just so much more reliable. He was already a better decision maker on offense. Like you saw that clip we played earlier, the fake Jaylen handoff and then backdoor cut, like doing his best Maestro Marcus impression. Like Grant wishes he could do that right now. And I went down a Blake Griffin rabbit hole today, and but like he was really good against the Giannis in the net series. He's been like pretty proven in the playoffs. He's just like a very veteran player and a dude that has this experience versus Grant. We have like a pretty awesome sample, but like really one series of him being awesome in the playoffs. Ball through the wall, baby. Are you, Landon?
That's on the cutting room floor as far as names for this podcast. It didn't make it to the final. So, sorry, Spoonie, I cut you off.
No. I was just gonna say, yeah, like I think it's probably a good thing we have different options with Blake, but Mike Muscala is not better than Grant right now. I'm sorry, that dude cannot defend. He cannot,
but he can rebound.
Yeah, fair.
And Grant can't rebound either right now.
You know,
it's killing me.
Grant needs to stop yelling at the refs, Jake.
It's so bad,
dude. It is so bad. When I was at the Sixers Celtics game, the game we won in Philly, like every single stoppage, Grant went up to the refs, like every single one, to the point where I was like in my seat, like, stop yelling at the refs, dude. Mm-hmm. You are not good enough to do that. Nobody is. I mean, that is like reserved for like the Chris Pauls of the world who've been in the league for, 15 plus years. I mean, I just don't get it. And it's not helping him at all.
Yeah, Grant stopping complaining to the refs is the equivalent of paint touches opening up our three-point offense.
Yeah.
Like, one requires the other. And if Grant can take that out of his game and his approach, then things are going to get better for him and for the team overall. We mentioned, I think it was you, Jake, the first to the floor mentality a second ago. We got to check out and give praise and flowers to Sam Hauser, who had his own little first to the floor moment against the Raptors yesterday.
Strong on the baseline, and Muscala getting in there. Oh, good play. Oh, yeah. He rolls it in for two. Hauser.
That's amazing, dude. Come on. That's awesome.
Look, we don't big up Scal much, but that was a great call.
It was a good call.
He just screamed Tommy Point. That was beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I mean, we do have Jaylen All-NBA on the run sheet. It was really more of a question for Max. I think we've made our thoughts and feelings pretty clear on that matter so far. So maybe we should pivot to Sixth Man of the Year. We've seen a couple of good performances from Malcolm Brogdon to round out his season. Hopefully he gets a nice amount of rest now for these final couple of games. Jake, like, how mad are you about Emmanuel Quickley potentially stealing the Sixth Man of the Year by cheating? And by that, I think you mean, because you've added this to the run sheet, that he's played so many starter minutes and really juiced his numbers, it's almost unfair for him to be in consideration at this point.
Don't worry, Landon. You have not missed the Malcolm Brogdon segment. We're doing another one.
Here it comes, baby.
We're firing it up.
This is bullshit, dude.
Bullshit.
Like, bullshit.
Yes.
So, like, Quickly has started 19 games. And Brogdon has started 0. And I went through Quickly's basketball reference today. His top 8 scoring performances, the 40 points, 39, 38, and 55 minutes against the Celtics, all the way through his top 8, all came as a starter. And I'm sure if I went through the rest of them, most of them would be as a starter. It's completely ridiculous that he's become like this, like, far and away front runner for Sixth Man of the Year. Brogdon obviously on, assuming the Nuggets lose today when you're resting Jokic, clinching the second best record in the NBA, by far the most reliable actual bench piece in the NBA, Quickly averaging 14.6, Brogdon averaging 14.9, Quickly on 49, 37, 81, whereas Brogdon's on 44, 48, 44% from three. Like, he's one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA. Like, it's not close. It's not fair that Quickly's been like given this boost just because he started like a quarter of the season almost.
What are we doing?
I don't understand.
Brogdon's stats are better if you include Quickly's starts. And then if you take his starts out, I mean, it is not, he's averaging like 11 points a game off the bench. Like, why is this even a conversation at this point? Like, Brogdon, more points, more rebounds, more assists, 1 percentage point worse on field goal percentage, but his true shooting way higher. I do not understand. Like, Quickly, okay, fine defender. So is Brogdon. So it's not like you can say, well, Quickly's locking everybody up and he's so crazy. Like, that is not the argument either. So I just do not understand. It has nothing to do with the fact that I stand to win a bunch of money if Malcolm Brogdon wins Sixth Man of the Year. Like, I just do not understand how the narrative has changed so much. Is it because Quickly had that huge game against? It seems like that Quickly had that huge game against the Celtics when he played 55 minutes. And from then it's like, well, Quickly's obviously the Sixth Man of the Year now, but his stats are worse. And then if you exclude his starts, it's not even close. So I don't understand. I really do not.
I think it's just because there needs to be a conversation. Like, the NBA kind of like prides itself on propping up and then maintaining these conversations, like who's better than who. We've seen it, to a disgusting level with MVP this year.
Yes.
And I think Quickly just exists as part of this conversation for there to be a conversation. But clearly it's Malcolm Brogdon. I talked about him exceeding expectations before. I didn't even mention the 3-point shooting and where he gets his threes from, sort of that above the break, top of the arc area, less like generation and ball fizzing around for him to get those really high quality shots off. And they're going down, like we said, like an incredible rate as well. So props to Brogdon. I think he will get the award. I think the conversation is just there to be had, but really at the end of the day, I'd be very surprised if Emmanuel Quickly got it.
He's a massive betting favorite. Quickly is.
I cashed out.
I refuse to believe it.
Yeah. I got him at 13-1 and like Zach Lowe didn't say he was the favorite on one podcast. And I was like, yep, I'm getting out. That's the sell marker right there. Like, he should be the favorite. That shot last night, like 10-1 run by the Raptors, tie game, just fuck it. Pull up three between the eyes, whatever, dude. Like, he's been playing so well lately in really big games and really big moments, dusting the Bucks, dusting the Sixers. Smart's out, Tatum's out. I'll take over. I'll go for 30. It's like, whatever, man.
Now, before we look ahead to the playoffs, we should just pause for a moment and quickly round the room. What are our favorite moments? I'm not sure what Landon in the comments says. Jake's property tour continues while drinking out of an eggplant.
That is very eggplant-like.
I am in a new house as well.
Amazing.
Hopefully the owners don't show up while Jake's in there and he gets kicked out.
Yeah.
The owners and Max Letterman both, hopefully. Well, we want Max Letterman to show up. But anyway, favorite moments of the regular season before we all, we talked about before going on air, ramping ourselves up as far as like podcast production and content production. Before we move forward to all of that, which can be stressful at times to output at the level that we feel like we need to, let's stop. Let's look back at the regular season that was. Quick round the room as far as what your favorite moment of the season was. I think you guys know what mine is, so I'm going to go last. So Spoonie, I'll throw to you. What was your favorite moment off the top of your head of the regular season?
Mine is very easy. I was in the building for that Tatum pull-up 3 against the Sixers to ice the game, and then Embiid hit the full court shot. And I watched as all the Sixers fans stood up and were like, we're going to OT. And I was just screaming, he didn't get it off. He didn't get it off. And Embiid, he didn't cheer. He was just like, So I you knew he didn't. But if the roles were reversed, I would be like the Sixers fans. But it wasn't. And then we walked out of the stadium, and all the Sixers fans were so dejected. And there was a man screaming, we'll never beat them. We'll never beat them. Fucking Tatum. And I was like, that's right. Fucking Tatum. So that is easily, for me, the best moment of the season, amongst a lot of great ones.
That's amazing. Yeah, Jake?
That's the best. When you sent that message to the Slack channel that you'd heard a grown man yelling, we'll never beat them, just brought me immeasurable amounts of joy. There was a lot when I was thinking about this today. I'll try not to step on Ben's because I'm pretty sure I know Ben's as well. But I was thinking, the Milwaukee game just recently, Christmas Day against the Milwaukee. But honestly, opening night, it's all coming full circle. Celtics, Sixers, Tatum has like that two-way monster performance, like 30 plus, like swatting Maxey into the stands. It was just like, oh, there's still levels between these two teams. I know you guys had a cool off season and brought in PJ Tucker, but yeah, Al Horford's better than PJ Tucker. Everybody's writing off Al Horford, who's like 349 days younger than PJ Tucker for some reason. James Harden can't get by a single player on the Celtics roster, and it's only going to get worse as the playoffs go on. So that opening night, the vibes have just kind of like, from there to now, kind of feel pretty much the same as we like are on a collision course to play the Sixers. But yeah, good times.
And Philly was so hyped up heading into the season as well. Like a lot of people had them as their number one pick. Yep. And the Celtics just shut that down in like 3 quarters. And we were running the playback for that game. The vibes, I think you used the word immeasurable, absolutely, to begin the season there. My favorite moment of the season, I have it right here. I have the video footage.
Yeah, I know what this is. Yeah.
It comes from early in the season, and we're going to hit that right now.
He gets one from White. Now he gives to White. Pulls to the Blake Griffin throws it down.
You can't not love that moment. Everyone on the bench loving it. Jaylen looks cool as fuck, just like giddy and enjoying the moment, breaking out of his sort of cool stance for a second there. Blake with the facial, like the old school dunking over Kendrick Perkins facial, but doing it a little closer to the ground, but in Celtics green, which is amazing. And there was a couple of other Blake moments in the season, a couple of other dunks as well.
I'm going to run one. Fuck it.
Please, let's do it.
Let us not forget the long road trip where we were on a back-to-back.
Yes, this was going to be mine. That's what I thought Ben was going to do. Yes.
Me too. Yeah. When, I don't think Al or Rob played, and we beat the Raptors on the road, and were delivered this moment.
Picked up the foul.
Have faith and have patience.
Yeah, no doubt. Smart picked up the foul there. Siakam went 1 and 2 from the line, and a slam dunk and a foul.
Yeah, BG.
BG. I think that was Grant too.
Yeah. So, but that was also like in the midst of our just like levitating above the clouds as we proceeded to go to heaven. Like we just beat the Nets, like KD, Kyrie Nets the night before, flew up to the Raptors, and that was like that gritty comeback in the third quarter, spearheaded by Blake on the floor. And then the next game, we beat the Suns by like 50 in Phoenix. And the next game, me and Ben met up to watch the Warriors game, and we're like talking all kinds of scary stuff that we'll never talk about again.
Before the game started.
Yeah, before the game started.
Suns win ruined us.
Yeah. Yes. So like that little snapshot in time where we went like 21-5, like that was amazing.
I want to exist forever in that moment. But the only reason I don't want to stay there is because we might be moving forward to a potential championship, and I really need to see how this plays out.
Can I ask you guys a question? I know we have the benefit of hindsight. Are you taking the 18 straight S-my-D Kyrie run, or that 21-5 run to start this season?
Oh, man.
So I think we were 18-2 before we lost again, because we lost the first 2 and then ripped off 18 straight.
Hindsight definitely does influence my feelings towards 2. I want to say 21-5, and like feel free to correct me if you think I'm wrong. It just feels more organic. And I remember being sort of a more confused fan in that initial Kyrie stage, and there was a bit of emotional baggage there. Like, forgive me if I'm being over dramatic here, but we just traded away Isaiah Thomas, who was like maybe one of all-time Celtics vibes lords.
Oh yeah,
he was gone. We brought in Kyrie Irving. We're still trying to like get our finger on the pulse of like who Kyrie is, what he means. It was before I think his commitment to staying long term. And it was just a bit more of a seismic landscape for the Celtics at that time. And so while it felt amazing, and we did have the young Jays there as part of that squad, it just felt a little bit more organic. We had more time to fall in love with all of the characters on the team, and it just made that run a little bit more enjoyable. So that's my take. What do you think, Jake?
I'll play the other side here. But like, it's just the fact that it was the exceeding expectations. It was just, you didn't expect it. And there was one game in particular it was against the the OKC Westbrook Paul George Thunder, and had won like 8-ish in a row, I think. But a lot of them, like there was a game against the Hornets, like they didn't feel like they kind of maybe were a little lucky, but they went into OKC and they like had this comeback and took down the Thunder, who were like one of the kind of West favorites at the time. And then like that same day, I went to a music festival and I wore my Isaiah Thomas jersey, had like my Patriots beanie on, and I just met this dude from Boston just like came out of the crowd and was like, "Dude, what are you wearing?" And he's like, "What? That's the accent. Sorry, Spoonie."
It's okay.
and
I'll
I'm
forgive
like,
you.
and I was like, "Dude, big win!" And I just met this random dude like that had just gotten to Australia from Boston, and we were just vibing about how this Celtics like big win, like Tatum, like best pick in the draft, like Jaylen come, like this whole thing. So that just has a little special memory in my heart.
The one downside from that 18-2 is it felt like our championship hopes died the second Gordon Hayward's ankle snapped, right? So it was like, wow, we're really good, but I don't think we can beat LeBron good. Whereas this year it was like, we might be the best team ever. So I don't know. It's a tough pick. It's a very tough pick. We ended up taking LeBron to 7. So that was a great year. I don't know. I can't pick. We're going to call it a tie.
Yeah. Oh, we'll clip that. That's a really good question. We'll tweet that out on socials. Now, just very quickly, one more thing before we move on to looking ahead to the playoffs. Jaylen Brown was awarded the Red Auerbach Award. He was asked about that after the game. We're just going to run a little clip here of Jaylen's post-game comments from yesterday.
To be named the Red Auerbach Award winner for this year.
Extremely grateful. I think Red Auerbach had a vision for this organization, and so many years later to see that vision still being maintained, I think is amazing, and I'm grateful to be a part of it, especially when you are highlighting things that necessarily don't have to do with stats or analytics. Leadership on and off the floor, being able to receive an award for something that doesn't necessarily you see some type of value for, that doesn't always come up in the stat sheet. I appreciate stuff like that. I put my everything into this team. I put my everything into this city and organization since I've been here. To see or to get that award, I thought meant a lot. I was grateful.
So, and I'm not saying that Jaylen doesn't deserve this award, because he absolutely does. I just want to make that very, very clear. But there's probably at least 5 guys on the team that you could appropriately give this award to, and there'd be no question, no argument. But I see this a little bit as the organization pulling out all the stops, doing everything they can to acknowledge Jaylen Brown, to recognize Jaylen Brown, and to show him some more love, just because that has been his sort of indirect feedback, maybe back to the team, maybe back to the fan base in recent weeks. Spoonie, do you agree with that angle at all, or am I just completely overthinking it?
I definitely think there's something to it. But also, Jaylen has been sort of, I don't think you can say, other than Marcus Smart, there's any player who has integrated himself with the community in Boston more than Jaylen Brown, which is ironic because everyone talks like Jaylen's looking for the first bus out of town the second he can. But you see Jaylen, he's on the streets, man. He's in the North End, opening up his store, Seaport, wherever it was. He obviously cares about the city. He had those quotes 2 years ago, this is my city now. This is where I live. This is my spot. And he just seems to be very, very involved in the community as well. So I think it's, I definitely, I'm pretty cynical, Ben. I'm with you a little bit that they're like, well, stay around, Jaylen. Why don't you sign that extension this offseason? There's definitely some of that. But, I'm not saying Tatum doesn't do charity work and stuff like that, but it seems like other than Smart, who is just an angel with that type of stuff, Jaylen's right there with him, man, in the community.
Yeah, I think they kind of had no choice but to give it to Jaylen in a way. Can you imagine they gave it to Tatum? They could have given who would have been deserving as well, but I think both things can be true, and that Jaylen can be the most deserving of that award. but also be like in the context of where everything is with his contract situation, like they kind of had no choice but to make him the one that got the award. But you listen to his comments, and then he had that Shams interview, which was like obviously very purposeful to kind of like at least get his words with his face and everything out there off the back of the Ringer article and that other New York Times article, and be like, where me and Tatum are part of each other's, destiny at this point. I'm paraphrasing, but he used the word destiny and Tatum in the same sentence.
Love that
and
line.
I was like, that's pretty awesome. And this stuff definitely matters to Jaylen, to hear him talk about like being recognized, not just for his work on the court, but for how much he values off the court, and for him to be recognized for that. And yeah, of course, build the Mask JB statue like after they win the chip this season, or if they don't. And now we're getting like people in the crowd with the mask on. Like, come on, man.
Ben, are you just upset Blake didn't win?
Partially, yes. I'll always be upset when Blake isn't recognized for the perfect specimen of a human being that he is. Now, thank you for asking. Quickly, a tight 5 on the playoffs. We are going to have Barstool Greeny on the show in a week or so to preview the first round, unless he doesn't turn up. So just a tight 5 before we wrap up. And excitedly, we are on track to wrap this thing up like well ahead of the hour mark, which is incredibly rare for us. We'll start here. Spoonie, do the Heat scare you? And we've been asking that question a lot, but I feel like our take on the Heat, our wariness of the Heat has been wavering quite a lot in the last couple of weeks. It feels like it's dipped a bit, and that sort of universal fear of the Heat is no longer there. Are you aligned with that?
Okay, I fancy myself as a bit of a dude who lets the numbers like dictate what I'm thinking and my takes, right? I try to anyway. It doesn't always happen. I was afraid of the Heat until Jake, I don't think it was last episode, maybe it was the episode before, laid the absolute all-time smackdown on the Heat, and was basically like, there have been basically the Hornets since the All-Star break. So I was afraid of the Heat, but it just seems like Lowry is not that guy anymore. Like, even from last year, he's even worse than that. And if you go and like check Heat fans' temperature on Lowry, they are so mad he is on their team. As the Heat are up 20, according to Landon Lakes on Philly.
As he started talking, I was like, I better just check the score of this game. And they are up 20 on Philly, and Embiid and Harden's playing.
That's all right. So I was afraid of the Heat, but yeah, realistically, like, I trust Joe can at least, he's going to get out-coached somewhat, but Udoka got really outcoached by Spoelstra last year, and we still ended up winning in 7. This is a worse Heat team. I don't think Joe is going to be worse from a like chess move standpoint than Udoka. Maybe he's a worse people motivator, but I don't think he's a worse like X's and O's coach. And that's what you need against Spoelstra. These guys are going to be motivated. They know what's at stake. So I am no longer, thanks to Jake, afraid. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah,
thank you, Landon, for the score updates as well, by the way. Much appreciated.
They're performing the smackdown on the Sixers right now, which you can spin positively again. Like, this Sixers team, dude, like, they have to play so well to, like, Embiid has to play. He's got 15 at halftime. I guess it's not. This rest of this team, dude, Harden 3 for 10, like 2 turnovers. Yeah, we talked about it off mic, like the Sixers and the Nets, like that could extend a little bit. Landon up 70 now. The Heat have the ability, like, I don't think it'll be a sweep. Like, I think the Heat could like win game 1 and then the Celtics come back but like they'll win. I'm not scared. Like, if it goes to 6, whatever, like I'm not particularly worried about like actually losing a series to the Heat. It's just the ghosts, of Bam and Jimmy and Spo. Like, they've proven enough where you're going to have some of those feelings. I'll be nervous before a Heat series starts, but objectively, they're just like not a consistently good team. Like, yes, they can pull out one game in 5 where they're able to take down a really good team, but the Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, all these guys, Tyler Hero's food, like, they just cannot match up with the Celtics' depth at this point. And don't forget, we had Rob like every second game in that series. The difference between the Celtics last year and this year is like pretty stark. Like, look, like one of their biggest issues against the Heat was the turnovers thing. And they were like middle of the pack all season long when it came to turnovers going into the playoffs. And this year they're like top 5 to 10 in every turnover to assist metric. And yeah, clean music level, we always struggle against the Heat. I kind of think that's a good thing. Like if we got the Nets or even if we get the Hawks, there's going to be that element of the Celtics that are like that thing that they always do where they relax a little bit. I think if they do play the Heat, they will be like on razor's edge, ready for a true battle and be like, we've worked so fucking hard all last playoffs, all season. We cannot take these guys lightly. So I think from that perspective, that's actually a good thing. I still hope we get the Hawks because they're like so squishy, which could easily happen. That's the thing with this Heat team. They could beat the Heat by 20 and then lose by 15 to the Hawks in the play-in game. Like this, that's the deal with this team.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly seems, I guess, the most likely that we'll see the Heat, which is why they're the focus of this discussion. But certainly, like, I'd prefer the Hawks or the Raptors based on, they were full strength yesterday. We just, like, trotted out a nothing lineup and barely tried and still won. Not convincingly, it was an ugly game, but like we were able to win an ugly game against a team who was jockeying for playing position at the moment. So that sort of boosted my confidence as far as the matchup against the Raptors would be concerned. At the end of the day, I'm not particularly frightened now of any potential first-round matchup, but I suppose the Heat are the ones that scare me the most of a group that don't scare me much at all collectively. And it's just because of those ghosts, like you mentioned, Jake, and the coaching prowess of Spo as well does concern me a little bit. But, we're looking at like maybe a 5-game series, 6-game series tops against any of those opponents. So confidence going into round one, regardless, which leads to the next question. And this is a broad one just to finish up here. Spoonie, I mean, I almost hesitate to ask because like we're all big Celtics fanboys. Obviously, we're pretty confident. In fact, I'm maybe the one who should be asked this question because I'm the one who's sort of the most neurotic when it comes to the C's. Like, how confident are you, broadly speaking, heading into this playoff run, given everything we've seen this season, given the level of health for the Celtics? Jake mentioned we've got so many more tools in the tool belt that we didn't have last year. We've got more experience because of that finals last year. How confident are you in getting back to the finals, let alone winning the finals?
So, look, I'm the guy who said if we lose in 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals, it's a successful season. So, I mean, like, even if you're the favorite, unless you're the KD Warriors, the favorite only has like a 25-30% chance to win the finals. And that's 538's got us at like 27% right now. I think that's about right. Like, we are the most likely team to win the finals. And I feel that way, but it's still less likely that we win. Like, it's not as likely that we win. Does that make sense? Am I just like talking in like quadruple negatives here?
73% chance that we don't win. Yeah.
There's a reason we're still like plus 400 or plus 450. Like that's
right.
If that was, minus odds, then maybe we'd feel differently. We'd be the KD Warriors, but we're not. And that's what's interesting about this season is that there isn't a team that's just like a cut above anybody else.
Come on, like let's step away from the numbers for a second. Like, come on, like
we're winning the finals. We're winning the finals. This is the team, baby. We got Brogdon. We got integrated Derek White. It's over. Rob's healthy. It's over.
I've never been more confident just because of how well we match up with the two biggest roadblocks to the finals, and there's no one in. We need the fucking Warriors. We need the fucking Warriors to lose and not make the finals.
Please play the Suns in the first round, Warriors.
That's literally the only team that I'm afraid of. Give me the Suns. Easy money. Like, that's not a problem to me either. It's literally, and the way that we match up against the Sixers and the Bucks, like you can't come out of that Sixers game feeling good. Like, we just own them without Rob in those non-Embiid minutes where we had Luke instead of Rob. And I'm sorry, Luke, I keep doing it. Rob is so fucking good. He's so good. Like B-ball Paul Reed was getting offensive rebounds and creating extra possessions, keeping those non-Embiid runs to like a minimum. Rob Williams in those minutes is just going to wreck everything. He's going to destroy Hart. He can switch on to Harden. He can help. He can close out to shooters and block PJ Tucker. Like, that's just not an issue for me as well. And this Bucks matchup, like, now Middleton goes down with an injury yesterday. Like, you don't want to see injuries, but even before that knee injury, like this Chris Middleton that went on that crazy, like MJ-esque Celtics killer run to the finals, that guy has not been around.
He's gone
since then. Like, Yeah, he can still hit contested shots defensively. That's more of an issue for the Bucks, is that he is not that guy anymore. He was their best wing defender, and like they are like, yeah, bring him out, no issues. And so like they don't have a single player. Drew Holiday is their best chance to guard guys 1-on-1, and there's going to be a game or two where Jaylen and Jason combine for the 10 turnovers. Like they're not going to walk over the Bucks, but they have the matchups in like what the Bucks do well does not translate to dominating the Celtics like it does to dominating the rest of the league. It just doesn't. So I'm as confident I've been about the Celtics winning a title in the Tatum and Jaylen era, and it's not particularly close. Like this team, no healthy Rob, Derek White, borderline all-star, not even a question. Malcolm Brogdon should win fucking Sixth Man of the Year. Like they've been coasting. They have the 4th best defense in the league, and it's been so obvious in like how many of our losses are like they kind of just didn't try.
Yeah.
The fact that they have the 4th best defense and they didn't really try. Al Horford, go watch the Warriors game where they won in OT. That's the dude that's just like hiding, lurking in the shadows. He's coming. He is coming for you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Vampire Al is gonna get him, dude. Like they cannot. So the Bucks' entire defense is predicated on funneling drivers to Brook Lopez, and they cannot do that against the Celtics. And that's like because of Al Horford. And defensively, he's one of the best Giannis defenders in the entire league. So like Al Horford is the key. As long as he stays healthy, I love our chances. We're winning number 18, dude. Yeah, let's go.
Hell
let's
yeah.
go.
And that's why that Bucks game was so good, because it just set in stone everything that we were pretty sure was true throughout all the season, the hot start, and then all those games where they were half-assing it. The Bucks game just really confirmed everything that we suspected was true. Look, we're going to leave it there. We're going to continue Jake's got a hand up. Jake's got a point to make.
Just one thing on that Bucks game, because every fucking Bucks account and every podcast, like, 5th game in 7 nights. Middleton didn't play the night before. Ingles didn't play the night before. Look at who played in those 5 games in 7 nights. Giannis played 3. I think Drew maybe played 2 or 3. They didn't play 5 games in 7 nights.
No.
They were resting, as they always do.
And then we had a 5th game in 7 nights the next day and beat the Jazz.
Yes, thank you.
The Taylor Horton Chaka Jazz and the Chris Dunn Jazz, who were like really good, okay?
Apparently.
And that's not a joke. They took the Lakers to overtime yesterday. The other day as well.
They're good.
Really good point. Love the confidence, guys. So glad I asked, and so glad we're wrapping up on that. That is going to do it for this one. Like I said, we are going to continue the playoff forecasting conversation in the next week or so while the play-in situation sorts itself out. So more to come there. We will have Barstool Greeny coming on the pod in a week to talk about that first-round matchup, which looks like it may very well be the Heat. That's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for joining us, either here live on YouTube or later watching the podcast. This is the portion where I meant to thank Max Letterman for coming on the show. Hopefully we can reschedule there. We'll be back with another pod early next week. Spoonie, Jake, love your work, guys. Until next time, go Celtics.